All right, welcome back to Mind and Magick, and if you're new here, welcome. Lameth over at Patreon writes, I've never seen orbs as definitive evidence of spirit activity. I largely view them as dust particles or curious anomalies. I won't write them off completely, but I'm taking them with a grain of salt until proven otherwise. And I agree 100%. He left this on the orb hunting video, which is in reference to the 360-degree fisheye camera that I have mounted in the ceiling of my temple that includes an infrared mode, which when I used it during ritual ended up showing a bunch of so-called orbs and other anomalies flying around the temple. Now, they weren't anything that I was looking for. However, once I saw them, it piqued my curiosity because I used to watch a lot of those old paranormal shows, which is a big reason I agree with Lameth here, because those old paranormal shows would try to pass off dust as spiritual activity, as orbs, when they otherwise couldn't find anything. But I assure you that is not the case here. For starters, it was easy for those shows to try to pass off dust as orbs because they would often film in extremely dusty locations. Old prisons, hospitals, asylums that have been shut down, old western ghost towns, and the like. Places where dust is flying around everywhere. But my temple, on the other hand, is kept very clean. It is the cleanest room in the house. My girlfriend's not allowed in there. My pets are not allowed in there. Only I am allowed in there. And I clean and vacuum before every major operation. Now, does that mean the temple is completely free of dust? Absolutely not. I think it may be next to impossible to get every speck of dust out of any room. But my temple is as clean as they come. Also, I have smart HEPA filters in every single room of the house, including the temple. However, the one in the temple does not click on unless the smoke in there from the incense gets too thick. See, I have to have clean air and keep dust to a minimum because I have COPD. From all the years that I used to smoke, it really messed my lungs up pretty bad, so I cannot be in environments that will irritate my lungs or make them worse. So I have to run a pretty clean ship. However, that said, no matter how clean I do keep it, there is a chance that it could be dust in the temple that are being mistaken for orbs. There are some that I have looked at that I have said that could be dust. But there have been many, many others that I've seen that simply can't be dust. They're either moving too fast with comet tail trails behind them, which could be a camera shutter anomaly or something because I'm not sure why they have a comet tail behind them, but they do. Or they rise from the floor for no apparent reason. You think dust would settle down to the floor instead of rising up from it. There have been some that have gone into walls and come back out of the wall and back into the wall again. There have been some that shoot out of the closet just as I'm getting ready to go in the closet. Many appear while I'm standing still and not really doing anything but messing with my glasses because they're giving me problems fogging up, or I'm reading my notes. You would think that the dust would kick up more while I'm making gestures and waving my arms around, but the majority of them show up while I'm not doing anything. There are others that just change direction in the middle of their path, again for no apparent reason. And then there's the fact that once I end the operation, give the license to depart and close the temple, the activity just stops. Now, there may be a straggler or two, or ones that follow me out of the room when I leave, but for the most part, once I shut it down, it's done, and nothing else shows up. That's kind of odd in of itself. When during a ritual, I was having like up to 4 a second show up. And I'll leave the camera running for a while once I end a ritual because I kind of have to. It's controlled upstairs, so I have to leave the room, go upstairs. But I usually have a few other things to do first, and so I'll just let the camera run. But I'm not really catching much after a ritual. Did all the dust suddenly leave the room when I did? So I find it all very interesting. I've seen enough to satisfy my own curiosities on it, that there is something going on. Not all of what I catch and catalog on camera are what I would call orbs traditionally. Many I would classify as anomalies, like a shimmering effect, and a few other forms. So for the ones that are definitely not dust, if it's that spiritual activity, I don't know what it is. And if there's no spiritual activity in my temple while I'm doing ritual, then what the hell am I doing? I mean, I know something's happening. I have a sense of it. And weird things do happen from time to time. And so for me, the infrared camera is merely confirming that which I've already known. There are no really big revelations here. It's just now I'm able to see things zipping about. And it's my hope that at some point we'll be able to see more than just that. And anyone interested, if and when that happens, considering joining us on Patreon, we'd love to have you. Desert Frogo 2502 writes, all of these points of light floating around can be explained easily by reflection artifacts from just about anything floating in the air, such as insects or dust. I'm more amazed that anyone is so eager to jump to spirits as the explanation and not even question it. Well, it certainly isn't insects. I mean, you may live in such conditions being a desert frog and all, but my OCD ass wouldn't be able to handle that, as that would be a major infestation that I certainly wouldn't be able to live with. But it would be most impressive if it were, being able to command such a swarm of insects to rise when I tell them to rise and to land when I dismiss them. But that's not the case. Now, for context, this individual is a hard-nosed skeptic that has tried arguing back and forth with me on the validity of the effects of lighting on spiritual activity, wanting to know what makes me such a spiritual authority. And I asked him if he's seen my channel trailer with all the spirits that I've invoked, called, and attracted, and this was his response, another skeptical response. And perhaps it's my fault for not touting my credentials each and every video, like the YouTube algorithm gurus suggest that you do. I've been performing magic for not quite 25 years now. I began not long after 9/11, which was in 2001, and that's not including my teenage dabbling years. So perhaps it's my fault for not putting that information up front in the video, but in my experience, a skeptic will always be skeptical. It doesn't matter what you say, it doesn't matter what you show them. They will not believe their own eyes. What makes you an authority on spirits, and even showing him a video of spirits flying around me, is not enough to change his mind. Nothing is ever enough to change the mind of a skeptic, which is why it's just a waste of time to even try to convince them. Because the only person who could prove that these things exist and are real are themselves. No one else is going to be able to do that for them. Because true knowledge only comes from experience. It has to be their own experience that changes their mind. You have to prove it to yourself through your own experiences. Experiences that you know that no one else had a hand in. Because you can try to convince somebody till you're blue in the face that magic is real, and they're simply not going to believe you until they've had the experience for themselves. That's just the way it is. And as such, there's no real use in trying. Because if they don't experience it for themselves, they're going to think you're full of it. They've been told their entire lives that these things aren't real. However, if it is real, then it's evil, blah, blah, blah. And this is why I say that true knowledge comes only from experience. It doesn't come from what other people tell you. It doesn't come from your beliefs. It doesn't even come from your own eyes. Because in this day and age, there's Adobe After Effects, which I don't own personally. Not yet, anyway. I only have Premiere. Or AI. AI is getting good now to where it's starting to get hard to tell what's real and what's not. True knowledge only comes from experience, your own experience, that which cannot be faked. And both magic and spiritual activity fall within this category. I can show you all the orbs flying around my temple, the ones that cannot be passed off as dust simply from the way they behave, and yet people will dismiss them still as dust or some kind of effects, etc. And I don't blame them one bit. because I would be skeptical too, just as I was when I used to watch the old paranormal shows. The only reason I'm not in this case is because it's my experience. And so I have the knowledge that it must be spiritual activity. So understand that I am aware that I cannot convince people of these things when it's not their experience. And even in saying this, most will not try magic or trying to document spiritual activity while doing ritual, because most don't care enough to see for themselves. It's not their priority, or they're too afraid. It's much quicker and easier to remain skeptical and dismissive and just say, I don't believe it. But having the experience is the only way you're going to know for sure. I can't convince people that the spiritual activity in my temple is real any more than I can convince them that magic is real. They have to do it and experience it for themselves. Unfortunately, most are too afraid or lazy to prove it to themselves. It's far easier for them to just go around judging people on matters on which they know nothing. And I've been doing YouTube for a long time as well, 12, 13 years now, and I've had my fair share of skeptics come at me. It's nothing new. In fact, it's quite old and contributes to YouTube fatigue. So I often end up banning the skeptics like this from the comment section altogether, because I cannot prove to them that these things exist, but yet they want to keep going back and forth with me, wasting my time, instead of just putting in a little work and proving these things to themselves. You know, it is what it is. Now, all that being said, your results will vary. For just as true knowledge comes from experience, the best results usually come from the experienced. There is something to be said for the experience of the practitioner. It would be somewhat short-sighted to think that you would get the exact same phenomena of activity as someone who's been doing rituals in the same temple room for the past 15 or 16 years now, along with all of the consecrated ritual and occult items in that space that go along with it. There is something to be said for the experience of the practitioner. Experience makes one experienced. You may get results, but will it be on the same level? Probably not. Can someone who has no experience with magic whatsoever have it work for them? Absolutely. It's that experience that will give you the knowledge that there is something to this, that it is real despite what they tell you. Will it be on the same level as somebody else who's been doing it for decades? Probably not. But we all start somewhere. I remember speaking with Asbjorn Torvald one time, of whom I haven't spoken with in quite a while. He kind of disappeared once he got a new girl and a new career as a wrestler, and he kind of fell off a bit. But I remember him saying one time that people don't take him seriously because he's young. And I told him that's because people equate youth with inexperience, especially in this field. As magicians, we are a type of scientist. We conduct experiments. We record the data and the results. And over time, we form an opinion based upon that data and our experiences. That can take a while, because you can do magic one time and it's a resounding success, and do it another time and it's a complete failure, when you've done the exact same thing as far as you can tell. And then it's up to you to troubleshoot what the difference is. So even when you have experience, your results can vary. Not every ritual that I've done in the infrared camera has attracted the same amount of orbs and anomalies. They have been vastly different. There is one that had so many I could barely catalog them all, and then another that had maybe a dozen. They are not all the same. Also, understand that I'm recording and cataloging these for me. These are not for you, the viewer. Although I don't mind sharing them with you because it's new to me and I'm somewhat excited about them. But don't expect the channel to be flooded with orb footage all the time, unless something super crazy happens. Then I'm going to post it. But I've gone on much longer about it than I originally planned to, because of the reactions that some of you have had. I was going to do a compilation, but it's proven to be more than I can handle given the amount of them there are in the footage to go through. And then there's the spirit chat that I'm planning, which I agree, orbs isn't enough as evidence of spiritual activity. So I purchased an EMF detector that I'm going to have on the altar along with it, as well as the spirit box. I did flip on Ghost Adventures on TV recently. It was an older episode, so they were still doing the same thing. And yes, they were using the same exact spirit box that I have, the SB7, using the same EMF detectors. They had some other fancier equipment that I don't have. But I think with the infrared, the EMF detector, and the spirit box within my temple, we should hopefully get something. It could be that we don't get anything, which would really suck. But it's possible. I'm not even sure I can get a radio signal down there, which is what the SB7 relies upon to sweep through frequencies that these spirits allegedly use to communicate. I am in my basement after all, and I recall doing these spirit chat sessions in my office, not always being able to pick up a signal. I had to find places in the room where it would work well, and then move the microphone boom arm over to where I was. So we may or may not get anything. I'm not really sure what's going to happen. I'm a little anxious to do it, as I haven't done one in a while. But after the next spirit chat, that will probably be the extent of the temple recordings. At least that's all that's planned. I'm not looking to turn Mind and Magic into an ITC channel. It may be something that we break out from time to time, but don't expect it to be a regular occurrence. My personal interest in these things is the same interest I have in any of the weird things that happen, because it's letting me know that I'm having an effect, that I'm not just down there derping around in the dark, lighting candles and waving my arms around for nothing. And as such, I do understand that that could possibly lead to some confirmation bias, which is why I'm really only interested in the ones that can't be easily explained away. I've never seen a piece of dust go through a curtain and back out of a wall and back into a wall. That just doesn't seem possible. It's why I'm documenting and cataloging these things when I do record in infrared, so that I can find the truly remarkable footage and cut the wheat from the chaff. There is an entire ritual of footage that I haven't even gotten to yet. These rituals do take much longer to catalog than they do to perform. It's not easy blankly staring in the center of footage looking for any unusual patterns of movement. Because in most cases, if you blink, you can miss them. Many are that fast. And so I do have to go back over sections of footage multiple times. And it's not uncommon for me to catch things that I had previously missed. And I'm hoping it won't, but it probably will become one of these things where I have more footage to go through than I have time to go through it. Much like I had other things I had planned to talk about today besides temple spirit activity, but it turns out that's all the time I had for it. Visit my website, mindandmagic.com, for programs and more. We're right on the verge of 77,000 subscribers. We're not quite there, but we're getting close. I want to thank you for watching and listening, and I will see you next time. Take care.